Yes. Good morning, ma'am. Lovely to welcome you again to our podcast. It's been quite some time, I think a year plus since we recorded our previous podcast. It was about you, your journey. And I think you have been on my mind for quite some time for this podcast to manifest today. And the whole idea was to sit with you and listen to you. I think that was it. Whatever questions come, I am not the those are not my questions. So whatever comes will come. So welcome again to this podcast. Our conversations have been evolving. Our relationships has been solidified over so many interesting conversations, some very interesting episodes. So one thing, just to the listeners, so, ma'am and I, Jayashree ma'am and I, we had a trip to Saudati. That was on December 7th and 8th, and I had a health scare at that particular point of time, but also was guided through that entire 2 days space thanks to her grace and thanks to her energies. Both Jayashree ma'am and the deity at Saudati. So all Yalama's blessings that puts us both again back on the same line and same on the same podcast. There was one space where both of us were telling stories. Jayashree ma'am's space was to tell the story in English, and my space was to share the same in Kannada. And most of them knew their Kannada and English as well. So I was put on the spot to now tell it in such a way that I also have a space in the storytelling. And in one of those places, I think when Parashurama cuts the head of Yellama Devi and it goes and falls in multiple places. Yes, she's told the story, and I am suddenly at that space to say, "Oh, what do I now tell?" I remember telling that in Kannada, so it's so easy to tell, saying, "Hi, cut the head, and you have to cut your mom's head, and that's how it is." But for somebody who's grown up with them for the entire life, and to go to your mom and say, "This is what I need to do," that felt so different, and I felt my body was another place. I was not the voice. I was not that person there when it happened, and that moment was absolutely magical with her. And so I just wanted to bring that memory back, take her on that journey back again. Slowly, maybe a little more space, saying I want to do this rather than anybody else. But welcome once again, ma'am. I know your introduction. I would want the story to do the introduction. You are a guru for a lot of us. You are enabled us in multiple journeys. You take people onto temples, and temples become classrooms. They learn a lot. You also learn from all of us, and put that learning back into some more classrooms, more people. Be it Saudati, be it our dream of going into Parashurama Kshetra in Udupi and all those places. So welcome again. We will take this podcast as and how it comes. But your thoughts on whatever I just said and how it all began for us.
Oh, began for us. Lovely, lovely way to start. I think this was a wonderful moment. A couple of people came up to me and said, "You are translating temples into classrooms, and you're doing it for adults, you're doing it for entrepreneurs, you're doing it for corporates. Why don't you think of something for our children right here in Bangalore?" So that we can send them with you for a day, and you can kind of, do something with them, which will help them realize how important it is to walk into temples, but also how to walk into temples and what to expect, etc. So the next day morning, I woke up from my sleep, and the first vision that I had was a temple that I had seen only from the outside in Lal Bagh, close to Lal Bagh. So I quickly got onto my scooter and I said, let me go and explore this temple because it's so fresh in my mind, but I've never been inside. I walked inside, and that's when I realized it is Renuka Yellama temple. And that's Parashurama's mother. Now, I am very close to Parashurama, I must say, because for the past 8 years, I've been doing a lot of research on Parashurama. And I always even sport around my neck a very small, cute little gold pendant of the parachute, which is an axe.
Yes.
Right. So I was like, oh wow, so some new invitation is coming in here. So she was Renuka Yellama all the way here. So I walk in, I survey the place, and within an hour, I design a workshop for children using the trees, using the plants, using the stories there on, and how to make it relevant to their present day life and what is the life lesson that you can learn from here. And that is how I look at temples. So more as a learning space. So I then the next week something else unfolded. Another team of architects, led by IPAC, came to me and said they are doing a work on preserving culture and heritage sites. At this time, they're going to want to preserve a very important heritage piece that we have got, which are Padayatras. Bhakti Padayatras, and their hometown is Dharwad, so they wanted a walk from Dharwad to Saudati. Very interestingly, on that day, I did not know Saudati. This was really 1 year back, and I did not know what Saudati really had. So I said, now what's Saudati? So they looked at me perplexed because perhaps it's very, very popular in that area. And they said, Renuka Yelama temple. And I was like, foxed again. And I said, Renuka Yelama, I'm ready. So they were surprised. They said, you didn't even know what Saudati was. And how come you're saying you're ready? I said, I'm ready. I'm completely ready. I know what this entitles. And then they said, all right, before we fix the date, why don't you go and create a video for us, inviting everybody for this Bhakti Padayatra, which is a 45-kilometer walk from Dharwad to Saudati to this very beautiful shrine of Renuka Yellama. I just looked at them and the next instant said, I will be going to Mahakal very soon. And I'm going to go to Mahakal. And there, on the banks of the Narmada, I'm going to shoot a video for you, inviting everybody to Saudati. Now, they were like, oh, okay, that sounds really cool. Mahakal, okay, done. But none of us at that point of time knew what this space was going to unfold for us. So this has been my journey, Satya, for a long time, Pungidasa, that the temples, they just emerge in my head intuitively. And I go there and I am always foxed at the openings that happen in these temples. So I go to Mahakal, and that's when, yes, you wanted to say something.
No, no, I
Did
was
you
just
want to?
asking. My next question was, wow, what adventures did Mahakal start for you?
Correct. So now everybody, they say Mahakal, and of course, it's all about time, actually. We are all, I think, impressions of our past, and our present actions are going to create a lot of future for us. And this dimension is what Mahakal actually depicts. So I go there with a very open mind and I go for this very early morning 3 a.m. Bhasma Arati at this one. And it turned out to be Janmashtami. So it was again a very powerful day. It was Krishna Jayanti or Janmashtami. And on that night, I'm getting the Bhasma Arati. So once the Bhasma Arati was done, I was very surprised to note that the Shiva Linga was transformed into Krishna by virtue of the decoration. So I was like, oh, okay, now a couple of things are really fusing here, and with a very, very wonderful sensation, all the entire family stepped out, friends and family who had gone together. We stepped out, I stepped out onto the streets at around 7 a.m. after this exalting experience. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a beautiful lady at a distance. And I felt she was a vendor because she seemed to have some kind of a trolley in front of her. So I quickly told my family that I want to go and get something from this lady, and I went running across the road almost 100 meters. Something was drawing me to her like a magnet. I walk up to her, and the first thing I see is that she doesn't have a trolley in front of her. She's actually on a wooden, makeshift kind of a push cart, and she seems to have some kind of different, disabilities. So I just looked at her and I said, "आप कुछ बेच रहे हो क्या?" In Hindi, "Are you selling something?" She said, "मैं क्या बेचूंगी?" And she lifted her fingers, and she had no fingers, so she had lost all her fingers to leprosy. So, but she was smiling from here to here. It was such a wide smile. I said, "आप इतना सुंदर मुस्कुरा रहे हो." Because I couldn't see any disability. I could only see the sheer joy on her face and the smile. तो उन्होंने immediately बोला, "जो कर्म किया है वो तो भुगतना ही है, हंसते हुए भुगतो या रोते हुए भुगतो." Oh, I was like, this lady is living the Bhagavad Gita. What the consequences of your actions you will have to bear. You might either bear it crying or you can bear it laughing. And I have decided to laugh my way through this entire thing. So it is Janmashtami, and I'm getting a literal Brahma Upadesham of the Bhagavad Gita. And it is also about time, which I told you a little while ago. So it can't be a very simple coincidence. I just asked her, "What's your name?" And she said, "Kaveri." And that reminded me of the river in the south. And I was wondering why this North Indian lady has the name Kaveri. Just a question in my head, but which was to be answered in a very little while. I asked her if she will come and have food. And she said, "No, आज तो व्रत है. आज तो बाबा को देखने के बाद खाऊंगी." So which means she will consume food only after she sees the deity who will come onto the streets. I was stunned at this thing. And in the next few minutes, I was heading to Omkareshwar. And when I walked into Omkareshwar, another Jyotirling, which is surrounded by the Narmada River and in the shape of an Om, and I decided to take a small trek of 4.5, 5 kilometers, walking around the circumference of this island with the Narmada on my left side and the island on my right side. And just as I was walking, I came to a place which was a confluence of two tributaries. One is the Narmada, the other is a tributary called Kaveri. And that is when another piece of knowledge just opened up to me right there. Maybe I was retrieving from the archives that I have stored in my own brain, because from the stories that my grandfather has told me, I suddenly remembered, oops, it is at this confluence that Adi Shankaracharya got his Upadesham from his own guru, Govindapada. So I was like, this is the place. And this is the place where Adi Shankaracharya began his Padayatra. I said, am I getting a message again? What can be a better place than to announce this 45-kilometer Padayatra from Dharwad to Saudati? And that is exactly what I did. I stood on the banks of the Narmada and happily called out to everyone, asking them to join us for this march from Dharwad to Saudati to meet Renuka Ma. Now, this is what temples do to you, right? Because they're very ancient spaces, pregnant with knowledge, experiences, and lives that have passed because they are immortalized in those. I think every brick, every grain of sand in these places actually are infused with the memory of these bygone eras and bygone tales. And I think when we go into this place, we intuitively pick on certain stories. This has been my experience for many, many years now. And it's only getting more pronounced as the days go by.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, I think temples have that space. You said, yeah, it's an ancient portal to something that is everyday thing. So portal is ancient, but I think whatever is coming there is almost eternal, Sanatana, as you say. Everything comes there, and I think you are an expert at receiving messages and decoding messages that come by. And I've heard this story multiple times. There are other jigsaw puzzles that fit into place. You get to meet other people. There are other temples. I think continue the journey for us.
Ah, Yeah, so if you really want me, I think by just recalling that, you said the questions are going to flow from you. You don't know which question is going to come. You really led me to Saudati again. So I think we should continue that for a little longer, because yet another temple now comes into the game. So after this exalted experience in Omkareshwar, and after making the announcement, when my friend had asked me why the banks of the Narmada, why are you choosing the banks of the Narmada? I simply said, I recall a very ancient practice, which is the Narmada Parikrama, which starts from Amarkantak in Madhya Pradesh, goes across as the river flows into Gujarat, into the sea. And from there, the people walk back, and completely circumambulate the river and return to Amarkantak. It takes them close to 6 or 7 months to complete this journey. And in all this, they don't carry anything much. They just, receive whatever. If they are going without food for a day, it's fine. If they receive something, it's fine. If there's a temple en route, it is fine. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what it is that's going to happen. They're happily doing this for close to 7 to 8 months. So that's, I said, to preserve padayatras, especially bhakti padayatras, and to see the kind of devotion and commitment with which people do walk on their feet, to realize their own inner, calling and divinity within. I said there can't be a better place than the banks of the Narmada, which has the longest parikrama. So, and then I thought, okay, it's done. This is what I had planned, and I'm done with it. And I go to Mahakal. I go to Maheshwar, which is my next destination. And the minute I step into Maheshwar, I feel something very different. I get this golden opportunity to have a dip in the Narmada. Narmadas, especially I had been there during monsoon, so it's pretty strong, So people generally ask us or dissuade us from having a bath. But then I found a place where I could easily get in, and have a. And after that, I took a little auto rickshaw, and the local guy, he took us around. And I always enjoy these little trysts with the auto rickshaw or the cycle guys, the rickshaw guys, who really take us into the deeper lanes, which cars can't get into. So I go, and he takes me to a place where he says Narmada almost looks like a waterfall here, but then because it's monsoon time, the water has really come this far. If you come during summer, the water recedes. You can actually walk almost to the center of the bed of Narmada and pick up pebbles, which and these pebbles are called Narmada Banalingas. So they have a very unique ability. You place them between your thumb and the two nails, they rotate. This is how they behave, because Narmada is considered very chanchal, and all the Banalingas, they rotate. So there is some spin within them, so which is very interesting. So I went there looking for this, and then after a dip again in the Narmada, I walked to this very ancient temple called Rajarajeshwara. And interestingly, this Rajarajeshwara temple, I believe that it's 6,000 year old. The tribals have been maintaining it. Then today it is a town. So then it became a village and then a town and maybe a mini city. But there are 11 Akhanda Jyotis that have been burning for the past 5,000 years, and the tribals have been providing a kg and a half of ghee to help this burn. When I walked into the temple, I could easily make out that it's a very alive temple, and pujas have been happening for many, many years. I sat there in meditation, and when I opened my eyes, I saw the idol of Kartavirya Arjuna, a character from Renuka life and Jamadagni and Parashurama's life. The minute I saw the idol, I was stunned. I said, now, what is Kartavirya Arjuna? It's very unique. You find Kartavirya Arjuna idols in a very few places. There is one place in Sringeri, our Shankaracharya Peetam, the Sharada Peetam. On one of the walls there, you find Kartavirya Arjuna. So I was like, whoa, wow. Now, why Kartavirya Arjuna here? And that's when the rest of the story unfolded in my own head. I said, oops, the entire story of because Renuka has met Kartaviri Arjuna. She has visited him. They are distant relatives, and she has met him along with Jamadagni, and then Parashurama has been tutored by Dattatreya, and Kartaviri Arjuna by Dattatreya. So all these stories just opened up to me, and I realized, oh my, I had not decided to invite everybody for this walk on the banks of the Narmada. It is the Narmada who had invited me to come and make the announcement here, because it's on these very banks that the story of Renuka Yellamma began. Now, why this becomes so interesting is, if you already know and you're going there with the knowledge, it's very different. But when you go there and then you tap into the cosmic knowledge, and you tap into something that was in the far recesses of your experience or brain, or not even there, and you're just tapping into that knowledge, you realize that the temple is working for you, the space is working for you. One of my very favorite lines is Jaisa Sthan Vaisa Gyan. So, and I have felt that in every single temple. So after this experience of Kartaviri Arjuna, I went on to investigate a little more, research a little more, and find out Renuka's story and what exactly is happening in Saudati. What is this journey completely all about? The entire Ghat section, the entire thing is becoming Parashurama Kshetra. It starts somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, moves on to Maharashtra, from Maharashtra to Karnataka, and then this entire belt. So I was like, wow, something deep is unfolding. I returned home and I started doing more research, because till then I had only read these stories in the Puranic tales. Now I decided to go and explore the folklores, because in Saudati area, we hear that Jogapas and Jogatis, and people with stringed instruments singing the praise of Renukama. I've heard these stray songs here and there. And I met a very dear friend who quickly introduced me to a lady. I haven't even met her in person yet, but she introduced me to her work. Okay, Shilpa Mudbi is her name, and she is somebody who sings these songs with such, such fluidity, I must say, that it was very impressive to just listen to the way she narrates stories. It kind of connected with the urban, maybe because if we go deeper into those original songs, we might not really understand anything till somebody comes and explains it to us. Just as I was listening to the song, it suddenly came in that there were these little songs where they had owned up Renuka. Renuka Yellamma became them, and their stories became the stories of Renuka Yellamma. This is where, again, a confluence that is seeing divinity within you, making your own story the story of the divine, and thus you raising your own, this one, to the level of the divine, is what I noticed in the songs. So these folklores, as I was listening, there was this beautiful song about Renuka falling in love with Jamadagni, a young princess, chirpy princess, and then she wants to get married to Jamadagni. She gets married, and then Jamadagni gives her a very impossible task of creating mud pots, filling it up with water, and then placing a snake on her head and carrying the pot on her head and bringing it, and she does this day in and day out. And one fine day, she kind of gets distracted. She kind of loses her, thing to that commitment, and says, why am I doing this day in and day out and I'm not even getting appreciated? Breaks the pot. She's unable to bring it back together again. Jamadagni is furious and he says, you have to leave home. And she says, okay, just like a young, tenacious 24, 25-year-old saying, all right, if you don't respect me, I'm not going to my father, I'm going to fend for myself. And she leaves. But then it's travail after travails that, befall her. And all of a sudden, in one of the songs, I hear that she contracted a skin ailment, and that was leprosy. I was shocked on that day. I sat and then I said, whom did I actually meet in Mahakal? I had actually met Renuka herself in human form. And then my interest grew even more. And I said, so what are these instruments? That's when Kartavirya Arjuna is the character. Kartavirya Arjuna is beheaded by Parashurama because out of sheer jealousy and not wanting the Brahminical rishis to get more powerful than him, he starts playing truant when actually he has a responsibility of being a dharmakarta, of letting everybody live according to their varnas and live well and live safely. He becomes jealous and he loses the thing. So there is a tale about how Renukama ripped his body apart, took his nervous system and made it a string, and took his alimentary canal and made it a drum. And a percussion instrument and a string instrument was created. Much as it sounds gruesome, it is also one way of telling them that, Kartavirya Arjuna's wives are the ones who come lamenting. And he says, you stay with your husband, but stay in prayer. Don't look for just that human person. He is gone. But then get into the divine, through the memories of this person. I think that was the beautiful lesson that I learned there. So just as I was listening to these songs, and now this other connection came, another part unfolded. The song sounded, the Kannada song sounded so much like Marathi to me. And the next minute, I started exploring along with my niece, who's a polyglot, some Marathi songs on Renukama. And that's when I realized something even more profound. I discovered 4 temples now. And these 4 temples are called 3.5 Shakti Peeths in Maharashtra. So all this is while researching to reach Saudati, the mother is taking me in so many directions across the belly portion of India. So she takes me to Maharashtra, and in Maharashtra, I discover that there is a Renuka Yelma temple in Mahur, there is a Saptashringi temple, there is Kolhapur Mahalakshmi, and there is Tulja Bhavani, and all 4 together are called 3.5 Shakti Peeths. I wondered why 3.5, and then research told me that one is Akara, one is Ukara, one is Makara, and one is Chandrabindu. So together they become Omkara. Now, this was even more fascinating for me because when I started inviting people, I did it in Omkareshwar, a Jyotirlinga, Shivasthana. And I come to a Shakti Sthana, which is Omkareshwar again. Now just look at the beauty. It is Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yati Bhavati Shakta. It is like the feminine and the masculine energies are one and the same, and there's a confluence of both these energies. As I'm discovering this, I realized I saw the image of Saudati Amma, and I saw that she's sporting a little mustache and a beard. Now I said, and when I went deeper, I realized that there are many transgenders who pray to Lord Saudati Renuka Yellamma. And another story unfolds where Jamadagni asks Parashurama, his son, to behead his mother because she has got distracted. And but before that, he asks 4 of his other sons to do the same, and they say no. And that's when he curses them to be transgenders, is what the story says. And they, being Renuka's children anyway, are embraced by the mother, as they are. So all the transgenders in that area, they hold Renuka Saudati in highest esteem. And, they are always singing and praying and, doing everything out there. So just look at this. Again, the male, the feminine, and the masculine energies coming together, and there's a confluence, and there is nothing but an Ardhanarishwara. All these kind of amazing things are unfolding. And even before we went to Saudati, I actually walked into Maharashtra. I went visiting all these temples, got invited every single place. And there I also had the opportunity to go to, when I had planned these 4 and the 4 Shakti Peeths and the 4 Jyotirlingas in Maharashtra, I got a sudden this one from a friend, a call from a friend who said, hey, if you're going to Maharashtra, don't miss a place called Chiplun. I was like, okay, now what's Chiplun? Just like Saudati, I'm asking him what's Chiplun. And he says, come on, you've done so much work on Parashurama. Don't you know it's a temple for Parashurama in Maharashtra? I said, oh, I said, I'm not sure if I can fit it in an 11-day itinerary. Let me see, I said. The next minute, he sends me a screenshot of a message from a friend which says, long time, let's catch up soon. He said, Jayashri, check the name of this person. It read Parashurama. He said, Parashurama is a friend of mine who has not messaged me for 3 years. All of a sudden, he messages me today to catch up. And Jayashri, I'm stunned. How do you get messages like this? I looked at that and I said, I have got the bulava. I'm going to go to Chiplun. That is when I landed in Chiplun, I realized again, look at Mahakal. Again, he comes here. There's Parashurama statue in the center. There's Kama on one side. There is Kala on the other side, Mahakal on the other side, and a little cot placed there. Parashurama, being a Chiranjeevi, is expected to come there every night and rest. The beautiful Renuka temple behind. And when I stepped out of the temple, I actually spotted a very unique text which carried the scriptures of the Renuka Kavacha, the Jamadagni Kavach, and the Parashurama Kavach, which is supposed to be an armor, to protect a shield protecting us. And this was a collation of works picked from the various Vedas and blessed by all the Shankaracharyas and published. And this is the book that I received. So just look, this one Bhakti Padayatra is making me walk all across the country and preparing me every day, every single day. Now, between this is the Navaratri time, and what you see behind me are all the images of the story of Parashurama in the form of a folk, mural art that just came, my way. It took me an effortless 5 minutes to pick them up from a place. The others could not see the story, but I could see the story reading loud and clear. And that is when my home turned into a temple. So this is what it is when I say three things are happening, right? There is an external space, there is a temple, a consecrated space, Jaisa Sthan, Vaisa Gyan, and then your home turns into a temple, and then your body turns into a temple too. So this is what the journey is about. It is inside out and outside in. So this
Absolutely
is
crazy. Absolutely
crazy.
crazy. And as soon as I saw the picture behind you, I was like, we've been blessed. That story has come by.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
crazy.
from when I went there, and finally when we actually did the yatra, a couple of things, I had to call you, right? Because one, I don't converse very fluently in Kannada, though I understand very well. I am a Tamilian, brought up in Hyderabad. My Telugu, my Hindi, my Tamil, my Malayalam, everything is good, but I don't speak Kannada very fluently. So there was this little concern that since we are doing the program in Karnataka, don't we need somebody who could also narrate the whole thing in Kannada? Now, for me, this is not just a story that can be translated verbatim. It was not, it was the essence, the spirit, and it was not even a translation that was required, but a conversation where my words are flowing, because I always believe it's a language of the heart. It's never, language cannot be a barrier. Just like we say, language is not a barrier for music to flow. Language is not a barrier for stories to flow to. So even though I was saying that I knew my head, my heart, everything would communicate to them there, but having you by my side and narrating that entire thing, just as a conversation, was a very fine moment for us. So when we actually walked into Saudati, there were close to 75, 80 people, out of which I think around 40 or 50 were runners. And they were used to walking 45 kilometers. So they were always talking only in terms of the Padayatra.
It's
And I had to turn it into a Bhakti Padayatra. And I warned them once that people who have been running for years might not complete this. And people who've never run, and there were a few others who never even walked for 5 kilometers a day, might end up doing this. Make it your story and watch out, is what I said. So everywhere en route, there were small story packets created, and every location was, highlighted. The location was utilized to do certain meditation and certain activities, so that the you allow your body to sink in the energy, of the space. So while we were doing this, I think quite a few phenomenal things happened. There were a few seasoned athletes who couldn't make it, and there were a few who had never walked who actually made it.
So I remember, I think two people. So one of them had I think a heart surgery 2, 3 years back, Vivek, if I remember. So he walked, he and his wife both walked. So he said they'll do 5 kilometers, and five became 10, 10 became 15, 15 became to at 30, and 30, after 30, they said we'll stop only at the 45 and completing that space. And they were able to make it. And every other place we kept asking, do you want to continue that? "Ah, it's a continuation, it's a continuation. And this thing. And I think one fascinating story for me, what had happened with this. I had this ACL tear, right? And I was not able to walk properly. And all through that, I was literally carried from Dharwad to all the way to Saudati and possibly back also. So there's one place where you remember that one old car came and we were had that breakfast. So we were supposed to stop at one place. We didn't stop at that place. We went all over. So we stopped at some random place, and then we got Uppit at that place. And I remember eating all that, and just throwing off one of those chili or mensinkai thing onto the ground. Very mindlessly, just tossed it out. And exactly at that point, within 2 seconds or so, I see that it had landed exactly on a ant hill or whatever that is. And within like just sipping the tea and talking to somebody, that basically that particular mirchi had vanished. So just imagine the consequences that had to happen. So I had to travel, I had to get an injury, I had to get into that space. Then these guys who are not supposed to come in that car had to come. They had to take us all the way to that place where we were supposed to get there. We didn't get there. We got lost. We got somewhere else. And then we were not supposed to eat there. We had to go to a U-turn and come back and meet other people. We ate there. I got that very plate. Then I just tossed it out. It landed somewhere else, and so it was food for those ants for
My
whatever
God,
number
it
of
is way beyond that, Pungida. So I'm actually happy that when people start discussing with me and a lot of things, we start becoming more and more observant. So I noticed that you become very observant, right? And you saw an ant hill. Now, very interestingly, Renuka Yellamma, the entire this one is when she goes into penance, when she gets leprosy and she's suffering from a skin ailment, the tribals are the only ones who give her Adaikalam, they say in Tamil, that is a place to live in. And because the general urban, they get
correct.
scared of ailments. So the tribals take her in and they say, you worship to Lord Shiva. Why are you even doing? You are Shiva Putri yourself, so you should be worshipping to Lord Shiva and come out. So she stops lamenting and she goes into deep meditation. And when she goes into deep meditation, she becomes one with the earth. So if you will notice with all the temples, you will see an anthill growing up till here. Only the head is outside, and then the rest of the body is actually an ant hill. And interestingly, it is a chili, you said, right? So there are the chili does have a thing to it. For it, maybe the ants don't feel it the way we do. For it could be any other food. I don't know what kind of taste this one the ants have, but when they sting, they could sting like an ant too. Correct. So whenever you think about ants and wasps and ant hills, it is the Divine Mother making her appearance. So bumblebees and wasps and ants are the ways in which she actually makes her presence felt. So this is what it is. And with this, you brought a very sharp memory back to me now this journey did not stop here. It's just continuing. If you notice the last 3 years, I think, I mean, even before that, I've traveled a lot, but the last 3 years, the flow is continuous. It's like a river and flowing to, reach the sea. And I don't see the sea anywhere in the vicinity, but I seem to be flowing. So I went to a place called Pollachi in Tamil Nadu. And there is a very divine mother again, she's lying down and she's called Masani Amman. And very interestingly, what people do there is if they're going through certain difficulties in their life or, trouble and this one, or some kind of a conflict based on, and they're not able to find out why they're going through that particular one, why the family is not coming to terms with this one, or why the body is not coming to terms, then they actually grind chilies and they apply it on the Divine Mother. And after, once their problem is resolved, they come back and they give her coconut water.
So
So, and sometimes I feel you don't even have to know about all this. It is presently, I have a deep understanding that the seers, saints, people who got very aligned with all the cosmic energies, were totally in the Ananda state. They are the ones who realized all this and created these little hacks for us to live well. You had no clue about that even before you spoke about it to me now, correct?
absolutely.
And I am making the another thing which I had visited only recently, and the Divine Mother actually takes her offering of chili, of all the things. See, today, right here in this webcast, a thing, a miracle is unfolding. You had an accident and you couldn't walk, but you still made it bravely. You did not give up. Of course, we all supported you, but your inner courage was very, very essential. Even if we had supported you and you had said, no, I can't take a risk, I need to go, we could have done nothing about it. You stayed back, you experienced this, you tell me this only today, you did not tell me this before. And then I go through this entire experience only to help you realize that she, even if you did not know, she took this offering from you. And you were supposed to go through a surgery. And the minute I returned, I said, surgery, I could not see a surgery happening for you for some reason. I just couldn't see a surgery happening for you. And I kept saying, I think you're going to heal without the surgery. You're going to heal without the surgery. And interestingly, today you told me that you're able to now walk for 40 minutes straight without buckling your knee, and you're definitely getting better. So you see, without your this one, she has taken the offering from you.
I think priceless conversation.
Now, priceless, because even I did not. So many tremendous, wonderful. In fact, today, even before I began talking to you, I had recently been to Vaishno Devi, and I had been to this place called Katra, which is where Vaishno Devi Mata Mandir is, up on a hill. And everybody is only used to talking about Vaishno Devi Mata. They go trekking, they see Bhairavnath, they see the Paduka, they reach, come back. Nobody has actually spoken to me about Katra. What I realized in Katra is Katra, for the radius of 20 kilometers, there is no non-vegetarian sold even.
Hmm.
There's not even eggs, not even onion and garlic. The food is kept very sattvic, because so that everybody is in a very meditative state. Now, why? Nothing against any non-vegetarian or onion. It's simply that when you're a meditator, if you have a lot of onion, your vata increases in your body and your body becomes restless. And both garlic and onion have a tendency to release, make your this one. So the pains in your body will increase a little bit if you consume it as food. If you consume it as medicine, it's different. But when you consume it as food, that is why in sattvic food, they do not include onion. And again, herbs don't work very strongly if you have brinjal. So they don't include brinjal. Definitely not animal, this one, because animals carry memory, and that food, when you hold, and those memories will disturb you, and you'll have a lot of karmic inflictions. So again, you can't be meditative. Now, interestingly, this entire Katra zone, when I went there, I finished my journey to Vaishno Devi, returned, and as always, I chose to take an auto. I said, can you call a local guy who will take me around to the local places? We just had about 4 hours to spare. 6 p.m. we start. And he takes me to the most unusual temples. In fact, today I completed two videos, two reels on two different temples. One is a Navadurga. You go, there is a water flowing inside the cave. It's a cave. You have to go crawling inside, and you see these little pindas, Swayambhus of Navadurga. You come out and you see that there is the story of a man who has meditated so innocently. 13 years he has walked up Vaishno Devi every single day. And then Vaishno Ma decides to come here and give him darshan. And again, because there's no water in that place, she just strikes this one, and there's a spring that comes out. And I've even carried that water back home to give it to everybody. It was a fresh water spring. I go to another temple and they say there is during the Naga Panchami, a Naga makes an appearance, comes very quietly. Everybody has spotted it, and it goes back. And there's a temple. And finally, I go to a almost into the forest for about 6 or 7 kilometers into the dark night. I go to a very unique temple where Ma Vaishnavi has given darshan as a 5-year-old. She was born into a family and lived with them for 110 years as a Kumari. And it's a Swayambhu Murti where you have the Devi and a lion, and the puja is done. Even the pujari had a very baby-like face. And I said, wow, आप खुद बच्चे लग रहे हो, and he said, हाँ हमारे घर में सभी ऐसे ही लगते हैं, that kind of experience. And then I come to Jammu and I go to a very unique cave which is called the Jamvant cave, where Jambavant is supposed to be there as a character in Ramayana and Mahabharata. So between the two, this one, he meditates in a cave. And I believe there are passages from the cave. There's even a door that lead to different temples. So there is one passage that leads to Amarnath. So when I walk into this temple, it is 7 p.m. I walk in, Aarti has begun. I participate in the Aarti. I go into the Gufa along with the Natha Parampara yogis. And what do I see there? I see that the Linga is dressed as Mahakal. I'm like, whoa. So he said, आज एकादशी है और सोमवार भी है, और हम सोमवार के दिन इनको महाकाल की तरह सजाते हैं. आई एम टच्ड. आई सी महाकाल, एंड देन दे से अभी ये सब निकालना है, रात का टाइम है, तो चलो आप अभिषेक करो. सो इट इज दैट पर्टिकुलर लिंगा इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एकमुखी रुद्राक्ष. When you touch, it feels like a rudraksh. And so I got the opportunity to bathe the linga, then give the pal abhisheka and the milk abhisheka, and then clean up the entire thing and leave it to rest for the night when I stepped out of the cave. So interestingly, Pungidasa, even you didn't know which direction this would take. I started in Mahakal. I ended in Jambuan caves, which is dressed as Mahakal again. So it's all
Absolutely.
about, oh yeah. And the program that I do called Roots to Roots, translating temples into classrooms, is only to make one realize timeless values, the timelessness of the place, and make it very relevant to your present day life. What is it from that you need to pick up, which will make you live well, live better now, live in peace? And somebody very recently gave me a compliment, and I think I'm unabashedly sharing that because I found that to be the sincerest compliment. He said, here is one person, Jay Shri is Joy Shri. She doesn't live for joy, she lives out of joy.
Yes.
So
I
I
think
was
that is
like,
absolutely true.
oh, and that is what I feel so people are surprised at how do you travel so much and where do you get your energy from? Energy, you require energy, you require funds. You need to work. You can't be just and you need to make something out of what you are, where you're going. Otherwise, you will only be tired. right? And so the energy is getting replenished because the spaces are so charged. And when you connect with it in a with absolute innocence, then I think it does a lot of good for you.
Absolutely. I think after you said roots to roots,
I think I took you to Jammu now.
yeah. So took you to Jammu, but I think there is a question that has to come from Arunachaleshwara himself. So he said, you haven't spoken about me, so go for it.
You want a little bit about Arunachaleshwara now?
Yes. Because that also is again very like
Oh my
whenever
God.
I have seen you talk about roots to roots, you start with Arunachaleshwara and you said parikrama, and I said, oh yeah, we have to come back to this parikrama.
So everything is Shiva. So Arunachaleshwara, see, this when I was traveling, I've been the cultural ambassador of the country. I've been to Japan. I returned. I decided to travel the length and breadth of the country, train teachers, educators to promote thinking in classrooms. So all this while, the thing that would charge me during this travel was visit to temples. So I would, let's say I land at 7 a.m. by train. 7:30, I would be in a neighboring temple. 9:30, I would be in my client's place for a workshop. And 5, I complete. And then I walk back and I walk again into a temple, replenish myself, get back into the train and come. And I like unending journey of this, walking in, basking, learning, etc. So, two things that I decided then to do is when I started my own company was only to say, because I didn't feel anybody else was ready for what I was ready for, is how do you help people learn to travel on work? How do you help them to recharge themselves every time they are at work so that they are very charged at their work too? And that's when this whole idea of translating temples into classrooms emerged in my head, because what I experience, bolte hai na, and whatever good I have received, I should spread the goodness. That is how it all began. Little did I know that it would turn to such fascinating journeys. So one such experience was when somebody just told me that children did not like the lesson on the seers of India. And why? Because they felt there was too many acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Shankaracharya, this one. They didn't seem to complain about all the other historical characters who are dead, dusted, who make no sense to us now. But this did not make sense to them. So that's when I told the teachers that you have not touched the core. The seers of yesteryear, they really understood nature and human nature. And they created powerful hacks to help us live well by connecting the two. They were master storytellers. They made it all, like cryptic codes and clues. They fused it into their stories or the shloka. So if you look at Narayaniyam, you will see that it is a complete story. If you look at, Durga Saptashati and Devi Mahatmyam, they're all stories, but they are in further cryptic forms, like they are in very concentrated language. So it takes, beautiful thing to unfold and learn. So I was like, damn, people should realize what the simple game, like, you're just playing it's like the Insta videos that you see today, and there is that, hey, you just hold these two fingers and this one, and you breathe, you will feel a lot lighter. Well, they're talking about a mudra pranayama, right? So there are so many hacks that everybody is talking about. And all these hacks have been preserved so beautifully in the spaces, in the stories, in the scripture, etc. So that's when I thought of Ramana Maharshi and Tiruvannamalai. Once again, a miracle occurred, because when I walked back home with that, pregnant with that idea that, oh, everybody should realize that this essence, that be close to nature to understand your own nature, be with nature, and then you will start realizing what are the other things that are shifting within you. How do I make people learn from anything and everything around them? Was this thing, strong commitment to making them live in such spaces, experience such hacks, and actually get better, right? Why should it be pills all the time? Why should it be, messed up systems because of messed up pills? That's when I came home and I sat down. And till then, a person who did not really know astrology, at least not this Janam or Vastu, had not learnt Vastu, everything open to me. I mean, within minutes, I'm writing about the Padayatra that Ramana Maharshi has prescribed, around the Tiruvannamalai hill, and how each linga, there are 8 lingas there. I'm talking about cardinal points. I'm talking about northeast, southeast. This one, Vastu is opening up to me. I'm able to understand the deity there. I'm able to understand that each linga has a specific energy and it actually does a specific thing for us. I also realized that it is the life cycle of a human being that has been covered using these 8 lingas. Boom. And I created this program. Today, 24, 26 trips have been done. All people from different walks of life are walking with me. Nobody complains about a 3-day journey. First day, just traveling from here to there and then going to the temple. The next day, 5:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., they're ready to walk with me. The next day, we go climbing up the Skandashram and we walk. But what we do in each these spots mark the biggest difference between any other Padayatra and what we are doing. So here it is about evoking the divinity within. I think somewhere we are missing that. We are all spending money, we're going to the location, and then there is this, we are focused on the end thing. Oh, darshan, darshan, darshan milna hai. Then we go there and we just say, ma, ma, and then we come out. And then again, we are lost in the whole world. Some of us feel, okay, achieve kiya. Some of us feel, okay, it's a checklist. Okay, wo bhi khatam kar diya. In fact, when people say, hum khatam ho gaya, I will be like, khatam kaise ho sakta hai? You might be invited again. So how can you use the word darshan ho gaya? Darshan kiya hai. No, I make these subtle corrections because I feel so deeply, because they are not checklist places. So when we went to this, each linga, and they started the activities that I designed, helped them dwell deeply into their selves. My Guru, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, always says, don't run out of temple. Don't just go and walk out. Stay there in a meditative state. Things will shift inside you. Some gears will shift inside you. So I'll give you a couple of examples because you broached on this. The first linga is Agni Linga. And Agni Linga, the Adipati there is Surya, it is sun brilliance, and it is also about evoking the sun within you. What is it that you are born for? What is the purpose of your life? What are you here for? What is it that will make you get up early in the morning and continue working throughout the day? Because that's what the sun does, undiminished. So you're expected to dwell upon the purpose of your life. So it's not that easy. So I give very subtly structured questions which will help you dwell upon that. The next linga is Agni Linga, and here the ruler is the moon. It is emotions, and here most of our emotions and other thing, the anger, the fear, everything comes from us only because of certain prejudices that we hold within, preconceived which are not even coming from this janma. It is there even in your genetic code. So here you're expected to drop some of your prejudices. But if I tell you that as simply as that, you will not be able to do it. So I design certain activities which will help you dwell upon yourself. And in a matter of 20 minutes, you will drop one of your prejudices, at least for sure. And the pronounced, that place, Tiruvannamalai, is supposed to be something, a place that activates your Manipura chakra, the belly area. And that it's supposed to help you increase your Jatar Agni, which means your ability to digest knowledge. And I did that, but the minute I went there and it started happening for me, I realized that it is so true. Because once you go to Tiruvannamalai, even if you go all by yourself, this one, your craving for occult sciences, your craving to understand the human nature, understand what Ramana is talking about, that you are beyond this body, etc., will start dawning. And after that, you'll only be surrounded by texts the way I am surrounded by texts. Because for me, these texts are opening up. They're not just reading. I don't even get to read them from page to page. It's like the minute I touch upon one thing, there are certain things that just open up from the texts. So that is what Tiruvannamalai is. Because I've spoken about text, I don't know. I think this podcast, there must be much to digest for people. It's just going. But I will say the spaces not only open. Why do they turn into classrooms? Because they are pregnant with knowledge, and there will be one very exalted text that will open up to you. So coming to Tiruvannamalai, one of the places very near Tiruvannamalai is called Tirukkoilur. And recently, during one of the Tiruvannamalai trips, I just added a temple to the thing because it was a Kumbhabhisheka time. When I walked into the temple, they told me that this poet saint, the saint poetess called Avvaiyar in Tamil literature, she had her moksha there. And very interestingly, this was also around the time of Renuka Yellamma. Renuka Yellamma, the entire knowledge is about raising your energy, your Kundalini, and merging with the, Ananda. It's called Kapala Moksha, where your soul leaves through your head and you become one with and you become divine after that. So they told me that Avvaiyar got her moksha there. I was like, oh, wow. And then I walk inside, and there's this story about Avvaiyar. She sees two other saints, and she sees them walking to Kailash, one on a horseback, one on elephant back, Appar and Sudar. She says, oh, I should also rest and go to Kailash. So she starts hurrying up her puja to Ganesha. Ganesha tells her, don't rush. You do it. I will take you. So she says, okay. And she does the puja Nidhanamagi. And that's when she comes out with a poem called Vinayaka Agaval. And the story says that Vinayaka picks her up with the trunk and takes her to Kailash straight. Now, and there's a mural depicting that too. So when you look at it from that perspective, you'll be like, oh, you're still thinking of that place called Kailash. But when I looked at it, I said, no, this is surely about Kapala Moksha. This is surely about the raising of her Kundalini and she leaving her body from here. It is about Moksha that they are talking. So I went and started reading that text. Interestingly, my Tamil reading is not that strong. So I got a friend to read it out to me. The friend who's been chanting this for almost 15 years said, I haven't understood this myself. What are you going to understand? I said, just read. And she read. And again, I was stumped, just like the other story. I sat there and I realized that she's saying, just the sound Om, you have helped me with just this mantra Om. You have made me understand how to raise my energy from the Muladhara to the Sahasrara through the Sushumna Nadi. And you have made me, in one line, she says, Sattatil Shivanai Kati, Ullatil Shivalingamai, which means in the noise outside, you made me see Shiva. And as a Shivalinga inside, you helped me see Shiva. So, wow, isn't it?
It
So it
is.
allowed him to experience Shiva in the noise and the chaos outside and experience Shiva in the silence within. And the text opened to me like that. I didn't know anything before I entered. I knew everything by the time I stepped out of the temple, and it was hardly 5 to 10 minutes. So, this is what these spaces can do to us. Temples as learning spaces can do this to us. And the Guru also says that temples call you, the spaces beckon you. That's why they say बुलावा होने से ही दर्शन मिलेगा. आप खुद नहीं आ सकते, बुलावा मिलना चाहिए. In fact, Parashurama everywhere, even in Khatra, Jammu, I went to a very unique temple early in the morning where Adisesha has given a darshan from a pond, and it's a waterfall. It's crystal blue pond, water full of snakes, and there's a Shivlinga there. I landed there on a Monday morning. We did the Aarti there, and there were a couple of lizards that went climbing the wall. And the people there immediately, the Pujari said, आपका darshan sarthak hua. What they are trying to say is, what you had come here for is fulfilled. it is fulfilled, and that is indicated by these lizards. That is what they believe, and that is what happened. So animals speak to you, birds speak to you, plants speak to you, the space speaks to you, and you just merge with everything, merge with, merge into, and emerge richer to come back and have discussions like this, only yearning to go back again.
Oh, fascinating, fascinating. Because what you said, I was also reflecting on saying darshana, right? Darshana is not just sitting in the sanctum sanctorium and just that 30 seconds of screen time that you get God, and most of the time you are like, oh, that person is sending you out. You are only concentrating on them not sending you, but you're not there with that place. But the energy of the temple is, I heard it on another podcast somewhere that even outside, whatever is there that you get to see as the idol and all that is as important as it is sitting in the
Sanctum sanctorum. Yes.
temple space, that sacred space. And you've always been saying, this pregnant with knowledge. That womb that you sit in and observe that space is another. It's that protected space that you get into. You're getting all the knowledge that you have, and you are possibly born or reborn. The poet inside me is speaking all of this. So that's your true darshana. So even if you see all those verses again and again, uh, when you are ready, they will make sense to you. And everything else that had left, half completed stories now fit in exactly in its space, and you feel like, oh, everything is now so proper. There is nothing that is out of space. So it is completely, there is no mala in it. So it is completely moved of all obstacles, and it is completely there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You could fall ill, you could fall, but nothing like that happens if you are very open-minded and very receiving and innocent and full of bhakti and just acceptance. Things are moving, even challenges that come your way, you realize they are a prasada, and you're like just kind of braving that, and you're moving on, in that direction. Maybe that is also one of the reason why there's a call out right today of protect these spaces, because see, it's just like having a park in a city. You make it so urban, and you felt a need to make a small park there, and some air and some water body and some this one, and you protect water bodies, you protect the plants. You look at any of the ancient temples, they are always in very, you could say scenic. That's because scenic beauty, because it's totally nature at its, pristine forms there. So if we preserve that too, we'll have a lot of spaces to breathe easy in. And that, I think,
Absolutely.
is the essence of what we are doing.
Hmm.
And they say ना, वहां पर बोलते हैं, the innocent bhakti, they say, जो जो है उसका प्रमाण क्या? That which you can already experience, why should you prove it? Though there are, there's a lovely journey for me on the very, very scientific way to look at things, but we also know that there are many unanswered questions, but they exist, and that kind of healing.
Exist. I think that there is so much proof that it exists. You don't have to see why it exists. Why?
They exist.
Why?
Therefore, there's no need to prove it. Yeah.
Oh, damn. Right. So,
प्रत्यक्ष का प्रमाण क्या? जो प्रत्यक्ष है उसका प्रमाण क्यों देंगे भाई? Is the thing they say. It's a very beautiful statement. The same way in our lives, all of us, we are all exalted beings. It's just that we need to tap that into each other and, flow and converge. See, just look at this small. Today, I'm sitting in my place, you're sitting there, and we are actually having a conversation of this nature. And it has always been like that between us. from the time, the day, the minute we met. This Janma, it looks like 2 years, 3 years, but I think it's way beyond that. So many of these friends who come to me to do webcasts, broadcasts, work with me or walk with me, I call them all Guru Bandhus. So you're my Guru Bandhu, you know. So yeah, so all in search of knowledge, learning from even a blade of grass.
There's always something to learn from. Think that one thing you also said there, of the many things that I'm downloading, is that that sense of wow, I think is missing or is to be instilled in places and in people. And as soon as you hear some of these stories, that
That's
gets it
why
there.
we should play these very beautiful. I play the role of a facilitator. Yeah, we must facilitate such things so that there are lots of wow moments for. When you look at a rainbow, let's say there's a double rainbow in the sky, and you're like, that's it, that's wow. And then when you start thinking about where did it come from, this one, how do two rainbows form? Okay, how do one rainbow form? Then it's curiosity. So curiosity is full of questions. The logic mind is working. It is, but that 1 second of wonderment when your jaws drop open and you're just taking it in, that is divine. Because you simply see the perfection of the play and the manifestation of, in the creation. It stumps you. And they say the more stumped moments you have in your life, again, coming to our first porter cards, Bhairav, Bhairava moment. It's called the Bhairava moment. So today, I think even this very podcast had a couple of, I mean, I've had a few stumped moments.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I
Mm.
think those conversations with you definitely come with that. And this Guru Bandhus thing is also a very interesting space. We are all, I think, all co-travelers in our own travels, and you get to meet this thing. But I think I have a few more questions left in terms of our Saudati thing happened. You also, had your own journey until Saudati, and then after that, there are two very interesting places. One I saw you went to Shabri. And the other aspect you went to, the most talked about space in the last 3 4 months is the Kumbh Mela, the Mahakumbh.
Of
So we haven't touched
course.
that place.
Oh, wow. Okay. He's not going to let me go. There are lots of other places also. So, Shabrimala. Beautiful. So, immediately after all this happened, I've been yearning to go to Shabrimala. You have to turn as a lady, you will have to turn 54, 55 to be eligible to go to this one, eligible body-wise, health-wise, to go to Shabrimala. So I've been waiting for that moment, and it did arrive. So here there is a 48-day mandala period where, you fast and you consume sattvic food, you have sattvic thoughts. If there is anger, resentment, etc., you drop all of that. People call you only Swami. You walk around, you wear only black or blue clothes, and just saying that you are withdrawing from all the sensorial things around you, and you're not going to give in or succumb to sensorial pleasures which will take you, distract you, but instead you will look deeper and deeper within yourself. Been beautiful. For me, the 48 days, everybody said, wow, 48 days felt effortless. It was not difficult because one, I always feel if you've already been practicing it, then it's great. Like waking up in Brahma Muhurta, not difficult. I wake up at 3:30 every day and then wear simple clothes. Okay, fine, that's possible. And then the second is eat simple food. Okay, I do eat only a vegetarian and in the foods. Okay, kept it light. That was not difficult either. And you need to do one very interesting thing for all these 48 days, which is like, it's called Kara Ghosham, which is you say Swami Sharanavayyappa. You do that with totally open up your chest and your breath, and then you have this 108 thing which you will say loudly, and at every time you will end with Swami Sharanavayyappa. So I realized that it is magic because generally we are not letting it out. unless you're a singer or you're a practicing musician or this one, you're always holding back. You shout only when you're angry. Correct. So you don't shout out the
Very
praise
true.
of the divine, and embrace. I felt after a few, I do sing kind of okay, but there are certain high pitch octaves that I can't reach, and or I don't make an effort to reach. Here, it was so easy for me. Certain songs where the higher octave wouldn't reach was easily reachable during those days because every day I was doing that Karagosham. So this is one other thing. So when then we carry that and, we go for the yatra. A couple of things did happen. I must share this with you. So when I walked in, I had this time allowed a family to take care of all our travel thing because they had traveled to it for 4 or 5 days. We did have an experience of just as I got into the car, the guy who had already arranged for everything, he said, "We have a problem." He said, "The guy to whom I had sent the money, for the poo moodle, for the room, for the dolly for one of the friends who can't work, is absconding. Country is not reachable. And we have not got any this one. And the previous night, he got a message that this guy was arrested because he's been cheating people of, this." So
Mhm.
he said, "We have nothing." I said, "Do you need my help?" Because till then, since somebody else was organizing, I just let them. They said yes. So I reached out to one of my uncles who's been there. He's a Guru Swami, almost 40 for 50 years he's been there. So he's a DSP. So he just said, oh. I said, "Okay, go to this particular police station, talk to them, and we'll see what will happen." I said, "Okay." So we went there, and I get commando support, to get in. A commando standing by my side and giving me the shirt and walking around. So they said, maybe this had to happen, and that's why. I said, "No, next time be careful." So fraudsters and other tricksters can happen only when you pay well in advance. So you try and pay after you reach there or after you get the bill, which is they can takes a little more for their services because they are helping us out, but then the bill should be provided. So don't pay like that. So that was one event which, despite everything, went off very, very well because everything got organized way beyond what they had planned or they had organized. That was one. The second thing was when I got off into Cochin Airport, Kaledi. See, we did say we'll speak about Adi Shankaracharya, and I think he is now saying, "How come you didn't speak about me yet?" Adi Shankaracharya, Kaladi is one place where, his birthplace, his paternal home. And that is where his mother finds it a little difficult to reach the river. He turns the Purna River direction, and the Purna River comes flowing to his house. That is the place called Kaladi. So, and Kaladi, Adi Shankaracharya himself has got the mother Samadhi, and when she passes away, he comes to offer the last thing. That there's one place where a very poor lady offers him a small gooseberry, and he sings the Kanakadara Stotram, and it starts raining golden amla. All this has happened here. So I go to Kaladi, and it is 3:30 p.m. And I tell my friends that I want to get into the Purna River and just do some prokshan because that's not a very ideal time for a bath. Let's see. I said, let's see if bath, yes, why not? I get into the Purna River at 3:30, walk about 5, 6 steps into the water, wade till here. And just as I am doing my Gayatri, a golden colored cobra comes swimming from there diagonally across a few feet away, and it comes straight diagonally this way, and just 1 feet from me gets into the greenery on the right side. So the others had not got into the water. They was, is the explanation. For me, it had its hood up like this, and it was swimming so gracefully. It was just wow for me. I could only say, wow. I did not feel fear. I am surprised at myself. I did not feel the fear. So but they said, yeah, it's time. I think you should come out. So I said, maybe it's also giving me an indication, not to go too deep into the water now. Let's not disturb them. And I walk back. Then I go to a Krishna temple where that the Kanakadhara Stotram is written. And the others went to sit in the car because it's at 4 o'clock that they open the temple. So I said, I want to do a small parikrama. And when I read out first line, first stanza of the Kanakadhara Stotram, there was a sudden wind, and the people tree beside started shaking, and golden leaves, the dry leaves started falling. And I captured a video of that. It was like nature was in sync with me. I could feel the presence of Adi Shankaracharya, the divine, and this one through. And every time I walked one step, one leaf from the coconut, one branch of the coconut, it's called matte, that fell. There were 5 mattas that fell within 10 minutes that day. And I was wondering, usually it is like dropping something, it's like dropping the old. I can't hold it anymore. I felt maybe it was an indication that many of my past holds and other things are just getting dropped. And that is Parashurama Kshetra, by the way. So Parashu itself means dropping your past life, thing. So I felt that was happening. I meditated, and 4 is when the temple opened. Just as I stepped in, it began to drizzle. And as I walked into the Garbha Graha, it poured. It just poured rain. And another 10 minutes, I walk out, and there's no rain. So this was the exalted nature of this one that I had there. Followed the next day, the Narayana temple, one of the 108 Divya Deshams. Again, a very exalted, because 4:30 a.m. I was in the temple. And I observed something very interesting in that temple. So when they do this early morning Abhisheka, they disrobe the deity and they pour the milk, etc. It's like no covers, no layers. It's called nirmalya, right? And at that time, you know what they offer as prasad? Just a small plantain leaf, a little bit of tulsi, and a banana without skin is what they offer as prasad. For once, I really resonated with the thing that we must drop all these layers that we are carrying on ourselves, these names and fames and so many covers that we are holding on to ourselves, and just become transparent. The more transparent you are, the better for you, is the lesson that I learned from that particular experience. The next one is they apply chandan, and immediately at that time they offer you chandan. When you offer chandan here at your thing, you cool down. So there is a heightened moment and there's a cooling down moment, just like a workout, right? How you warm up and then how you cool down. All that is happening in the temples from such simple rituals and practices. I think somewhere in Chinmaya Mission, in one of the plays, they told me, there was this dialogue which says, "Oh, I'm not religious, I am spiritual." So, which is a very famous line we hear, very often, because people are kind of ashamed to say that they are religious. So then the explanation was rituals plus spirituality is equal to religion. So there is no religion without spirituality. And the rituals are these small things that you like. For example, you can't just tell your body get better, right? You need to, if you have a sprain, you need to stretch. So the rituals are those. Those are those stretch. So therefore, it is very important, our responsibility to understand the essence of ritual
Correct.
and be very spiritual. And then practice these two, then it becomes a package and it's a religion, it's a dogma, it's a philosophy. So many. And above all, I think today's podcast should really leave this message that if you're open to everything about it, wow, I think I must end it on this note also today, because something. So when I was doing this entire year, I've been in all the Jyotirlings, I've been in so many Shakti pits, and I went to Amarnath also. And I hear, we do hear in something, there is a linga even in Mecca. You hear all kinds of things. But a surprising thing happened. A very dear friend of mine had gone to Mecca. And when she returned, for some reason, she didn't feel like giving that to everybody. She brought the water from Mecca and a rosary and very silently came and handed it over to me. And she said, "Here is the prasad from Mecca." And I hear, so you see, even that Tirtham. So Tirtha Yatra, they say, is because you're touching so many waters. That's what was happening. So I actually ended up getting the water from Mecca also. It's there in my altar even today.
So you said, it's almost to the end. So our Sala is almost, at least for this podcast, coming to an end. But I think if Mahakumbh is not touched, I don't think we have completed this episode.
Oh, yeah. Mahakumbh, again, I almost 8 or 9 of them wanted to travel with me for Mahakumbh, but everybody was afraid also about the crowd. I had been to the Sagar just about a couple of times this year already, once in March, once in October. So nobody expected me to go because the Triveni Sangamam, I had a snan twice that year. So, but it was closer to the date of Mauni Amavasya, and I was specifically telling my travel guy who supports me with the bookings, Saurav, ये अमृत स्नान के दिन सब मत देखो, because I know the kind of crowd that will come there. So he said ठीक है साधारण दिन पर ही जाते हैं. He calls me all of a sudden and he says, Jayashree ma'am, there is a flight ticket. It's just, I mean, it's because it was really high at that point of time. So just come down to 35. Would you want me to book it right away? You must say yes now. So I said, go ahead. And what are the dates? Mauni Amavasya, Shahi Snan. They were like, I just said book. And there is a client sitting in front of me. We are doing a one-on-one session, my learn how to be session. She just looked at me and she said, are you going to come? You know, just this morning I told my family members that if Jayashree ma'am goes, I'm going to go with her. She said, book for me. She calls up another friend and said, hey, you said you want to go to come, you're coming? She said, yes, book for me. So even those two ladies did not consult their family. I did not consult my family. We just said, book, and it was done. We landed there on 27th evening. We were very lucky we could go very close because we decided carefully go on to the opposite side, where the ghat, which is opposite where the Naga sadhus dwell, because we knew that it was very, very crowded. So we went into this ghat. We landed there. We had a makeshift, very beautiful tent with an attached toilet and all arranged for us. Not too cold also because it was not too close to the water. Then we had a Shahi Snan in the Yamuna first, this one. The next day morning, we took a boat, a private boat, and we went there right at the center. I was dazzled at the preparation. I was shocked because that kind of crowd, nobody jostling me, nobody pushing me. I am there and I go right at the center and I have a bath for an hour in the Sangam area. And I took a dip 108 times this time, thinking of different people because I just heard that यार कि नहीं कोई भी याद आए तो उनके लिए एक डिप ले लो, ऐसा लगेगा उनका स्नान हो गया. And I actually did that. And the friends who first, took care of the bag, we split ourselves into two. They said, Jayashree, you go first. Then they said, the other said, okay, Jayashree, we'll get back. You continue here. And they let me stay there for an hour and quarter, taking dip after dip after dip after dip. And then we stepped out. We went towards the station because we knew that the night of the Mauni Amavasya Snan will be a massive rush. That's when, and then we come closer to the station. And the next day, early morning, 5, as always, this early morning thing of mine, I said, why don't I go to the Shakti Peeths here? All my friends were asleep. I took a rickshaw and went to the Shakti Peeth. It was, one Shakti Peeth is called, this one, sorry. So, one is called Kalyani and one is called Lalita, right? And Lalita, the minute I had the darshan and I step out, there was a slight drizzle in the air. And immediately all the vendors there in unison said one thing which touched me to the core. They said, Hamara Shahi Snan ho gaya. Because they can't leave their shops and go. This is the time when they can make a little earnings, and they are standing there, and also they need to provide all this material to the pilgrims, and they just opened their arms to the sky and they said, "Hamara Shahi Snan ho gaya." which means they know now the cycle, the water is only coming down as clouds. But to feel that pronouncedly, that is, I opened my hands to, to the thing, soak that in, went to Kalyani and then returned. So for me, a 10-minute distance walk to the hotel took me an hour and a half to reach. And I had another exalted moment, Pungi. What was that? The thing is, before this, I have been very afraid of crowds. I can't handle huge crowds. I become a police. I transform into a police. I start saying, form a line, stand straight, etc. Because I go into panic mode if I find people crushing. I always feel when people crush you, they don't consider you them. It is dvesha. It is not advaita. It is dvesha. It's like, I want to do it first. You want to do it first. That energy makes me very nervous. I like the energy of we are one. So trust me, that day when I was walking in that huge crowd for an hour and a half, not one elbow touched me. People were carrying their baggage on their head and two cans full of water and walking. None of them touched you, none of them pushed you, no elbow touch. And first time I experienced merging with the crowd. I felt I am the crowd is me. That fear is gone now. No more palpitations when I step into a crowd. That was my transformation or evolution, in Kumbh Mela. And I stepped out feeling such oneness. Yes, there were multiple challenges en route reaching the airport. I had to use a lot of present mind. One place I had to be very intuitive. I actually told them we are going in the wrong direction, headed in the opposite direction, turned out to be correct. Till now, my friends ask me, how do you know? How did you know? So there was an internal GPS that was working in my favor. Finally, we found little scooters, little motorcycles, and we went to the airport. The last bit of getting to the airport was with my arms stretched wide, like in a Titanic, getting air snan. I will say, bolte hai na. There is different kinds of cleansing you can do: water cleansing, air cleansing, and space cleansing. So water cleansing happened inside the car. The air cleansing happened en route, and then we got zoned out when we took off on that flight. Kumbh Mela was an exalted experience.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
crazy. And I think for this episode, we've completed this space. I think that energy has come, that entire chakra has come. So we've come, we started with Kali, putting it at there at that place. But I think maybe there is also the next seed of another podcast waiting. I remember you saying that after the trip, you'd been to a very old Hanuman temple, very
Ah,
nearby at that place. So maybe we start with that for our next episode.
yes. Because you'll be very surprised. Hanuman it is now. Because when I went to Vaishno Devi, I was there on Ramanavami.
And yesterday's Hanuman Jayanti. So
Yeah.
we are on that track now. And hopefully, this is the beginning of our Madhva Parikrama that we've been so strongly dreaming of.
Yes. It is.
Yes.
So presently, strong work has begun on Rameshwaram and Rama's footprints, Hanuman, and definitely our next program, Madhava's March. Yeah,
Yes.
Shankaracharya will reach us to, help us reach Madhava.
So we will be recording another podcast as to how it got us here.
Yes,
Oh,
very much looking
fantastic.
forward to this.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Jayashree.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. When young
Thank you
guys
as well.
like to come and ask such things, there's tremendous hope that we are all going, we are preserving what we need to preserve.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I'll end with your dialogue. You said one of those times, Sunil, it's not your age, it's your time. So this is possibly closure of this episode. Thanks, Jayashree ma'am. So I think our first podcast was about Bhairava moments. The second one definitely is about Guru Bandhus that I've actually noted it down on my hand, on my hand, saying this is something that I should put out there. I will also sit and listen to this again because there could be something that will open up because of this. But I think truly blessed to be on this journey together with you, and more journeys, more experiences, more podcasts. Thank you for today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.